Hello and welcome to Triforta Podcast, where we challenge the status quo and reimagine what insurance can be. I'm Rodney Mattos Sr., and today's episode is very close to my heart. We're talking about a vision, one that started with a simple belief that our time, our people, and our clients deserve better than outdated processes and manual workarounds. In this episode, we're pulling back the curtain on Aperionics, a platform we created not to digitize the same old systems, but to completely transform how agencies operate. You'll hear how we're using AI to eliminate administrative burdens, speed up quoting, extract policy data, automate commissions, and ultimately empower your team to work at the top of their license. Because we believe producers should be producing, account managers should be advising, and technology should be working for us, not the other way around. So if you're an agency leader, an HR executive, or even a benefits consultant looking for a smarter way forward, you're in the right place. So let's dive in. They say in the next 5 to 10 years, half of this industry is going to be retiring. So you better be able to be more efficient and work with a platform that is enabled or future-proof to help your people eliminate those mundane tasks so they can work more efficiently.
You and I are down in the studio, Spencer Smith Studios in Frisco, Texas.
Yeah.
Spencer, if you're tuning in, thank you. For the opportunity. Nathaniel, thank you for the opportunity to let us use your studio. I'm excited for this episode because I think what you're doing as far as artificial intelligence is concerned is pretty cutting edge, especially when it comes to the insurance industry. So we're going to talk about a product you've built called Aperionics that I think a lot of advisors listening in are going to want to know more about. But before we get there, I'd love to really kick off the conversation with, all right, we all somehow found our way into the insurance industry. As I like to say, the industry found us.
Yeah.
You've been in the industry for about 30 plus years?
Yeah,
right?
I started, I think, transitioning in the insurance industry about 28 years old. Yeah.
Okay.
So
what led you to jump in?
Well, I just had my, 58th birthday, November 8th here just a little bit
Happy
ago.
birthday. I just had mine yesterday or 2 days ago, actually. Yeah.
Happy birthday, Andy. No, I just want to comment. I mean, this studio is like state of the art. So absolutely beautiful. Something to aspire to build for ourselves. We actually just built a recording studio at our office in Loomis, California, and it's a small space, but soundproofed it and did a lot of neat things to get it ready. And we're starting to put out content with your help in coaching us. So, but it's a great opportunity to be here. But yeah, getting back to what got me into insurance, I think, most people don't grow up thinking I'm going to be an insurance agent, right? Or go into the insurance industry. And, it really just stemmed from wanting to, fulfill, lifelong dreams and achieve success for myself and my family. And I started having a family at a pretty young age. So my wife and I got together. I think we started dating at 21 and we ended up getting married at 23, and she got pregnant right around the same time I had proposed to her. So, we had our first son within a year. But so I was working for a family business and in the trades. So finished carpenter by trade. So had done that family business. So my stepfather had this great pre-hung door shop that I got to work at and really learn how to be a craftsman at a very young age. So my obsession with detail now in insurance.
I was just going to say, I think I knew that story, but now it explains the attention to detail.
It stems from just meticulous, detail and a lot of the things that I worked on over the years. They used to have in the real estate industry, construction, they had what was called an annual Street of Dreams. And so builders would just go crazy building some of the best, houses that they could. And we, as a supplier of, custom entries and doors and molding and, fireplace mantles and just really ornate details, I got pretty good at it. So a lot of the things that we supplied, ended up getting awards for those annual Street of Dreams. But one of the contractors that was a client of ours was building some new houses, and they were having trouble selling them. They built spec houses, and the cyclical nature of the construction industry was something that was always on my mind. Is like, if I'm going to stay in construction or stay in the trades or, either become an architect or build or something like that, was really kind of the direction I was going in. And I got, this realization that, there's a lot of, cycles to the economics of the construction industry. Loved working with my hands, but was thinking maybe there's something else, and I wasn't really sure what it was. So ended up buying our first house. I think it was, I'm trying to remember what year that was. It was really early on, like a few years after we got married. And wife was pregnant with our second child, and so we were making decisions. She was a legal secretary, paralegal, and does it make sense for her to continue to work, or pay for daycare, or have her stay home? It's like, I got to make more money.
Yeah.
So buy this house. Interesting way that I purchased the house. I actually traded and did installation for the builder that was building out homes in the same community. And I installed doors and molding and fireplace mantles and things like that, nights and weekends, which covered my down payment for this house. So you don't see that too often these days, right? You can't barter for a house, but it was pretty unique and a great opportunity. And then we buy this house, and it was really interesting. The 2 doors down was a gentleman that my wife had gone to high school with up in Amador County. And he was working in the insurance industry. And we became friends, and he started inviting me to golf tournaments. He's playing these golf tournaments because he's sponsoring events, and did a lot of work in the Taft-Hartley, in space for large group insurance. There was a local carrier that had started in Rancho Cordova, Northern California. And they became a really big powerhouse. It was called Foundation Health at the time, and they grew to be a Fortune 500 company. And he was working there. I'm like, man, I think I kind of want to get into the insurance business. He's making really good money, driving a great car. He's playing golf all the time.
Playing golf 3 days a week. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm, dusting off sawdust, and at the end of the day, and lifting heavy doors, all day long and things like that, loading and unloading trucks. Like, yeah, I'm going to get worn out if I keep doing this, the rest of my life. So insurance seems like a pretty good way to go. So we did some coaching, did a little role playing, which was totally new to me. I'd never done anything like that, being in the trades. And made the decision to go get my insurance license. I figured, this guy is doing really well, and like, he's no different than me. He was fairly bright. I felt I was a little bit brighter. I could probably, if he could do well, I'm going to probably do pretty good in the insurance industry too. And ended up getting my license, about a month later, went to work for this association that provided leads, and they had training on the weekends. You learn how to cold call and set up appointments, and it was through NACE, National Association of Self-Insured. I don't even know if that's still in existence anymore, but I got what was called, I think, the B leads at the time. I had no idea that the training leads, which I know better now. So everybody starts with training leads. Had no idea that that's what I was starting with, just pounding phones and setting appointments, and really did struggle with telemarketing early on. And I had a good, somebody I met who was from Philadelphia, and he was one of the managers that did training. I'm still really good friends with today, by the way. So it was, almost 30 years later, and a great guy. But he was fun to work with, and really taught me how to have fun, telemarketing. Don't think of it as a challenge. Think of it as like, we're trying to figure out ways to help people. They just don't know that they need our help yet, right? So just having a different mindset and learning that early on. But did fairly well. But when I really figured out how to succeed in insurance was when I made the connection that all of the contractors that were our suppliers at the business in the trades, they were all potential clients. They were all self-employed. So I started reaching out to them, setting appointments, and, if I can, provide you better coverage or save you some money, can I help you look and evaluate your individual insurance for you and your family? And they all wanted to meet with me, and I helped almost all of them. So, So that was enough to put on a resume. And then, after about 3 years of doing that, I never transitioned 100% to, commission only sales, because, having a family, it was a little bit of a concern. It's like, am I going to be able to make that mortgage payment and put food and, on the kids' table and the wife and everything at home? So, an opportunity came up to apply for a position. My neighbor said, hey, there's an opening. I think you'd be a good fit for it. You got enough on your resume. And applied for that position, and ended up getting that job, and that was in the Medicare risk space, so helping seniors with their Medicare supplements and Medicare HMOs.
What I love about that story, though, is I think a lot of people get in our industry, especially when it's a drastic change, like you, right? You were in the trades, and now you're in insurance.
Yeah,
and we're kind of taught that don't talk about your past career. Because we don't want them to know you don't have that much experience. Yeah. But what really, at the end of the day, it's part of your story. It's part of your journey. You can't hide from that.
Exactly.
But what I loved about what you've done with it, because we work with you now, and it's obvious you are very attention to detail driven. Now it makes sense that, well, that's what made you so successful as a tradesman.
Yeah, I obsess over detail. Yeah.
Which is a core strength of yours. Yeah. And I think that's what people often forget, especially the ones who do make a career change. How do I use my previous career to impact what I'm doing in insurance today? Yeah, we all got lured by money and golfing and cars and houses. Great. But it's using your skill from the previous career to help you advance in the insurance industry. And I think that's something that's probably helped you. You've been in the industry now, what, 30?
Yeah, like I said, I transitioned from the days in the trades about 28 years old. 28 years old. Yeah. And then 3 years after working at Foundation Health, they got acquired by another big national firm. I think it was HealthNet at the time. That was back in what was that, 90s, late mid 90s. I think it was 96, 97, and the HealthNet team decided they didn't need the Foundation Health employees, so was looking for another opportunity. And regionally, there was a new startup insurance carrier that some of the leadership had gone to from Foundation Health. They were helping a dentist start an insurance company in Sacramento. And my buddy, who was my neighbor, said, "Hey, I think you should go talk to Carl, who was leading the team and developing this new insurance company." And he says, "I think there's an opportunity for you." And then a month later, he's like, "Oh, crap, I think I just gave my job away," because he got let go. So he came over too, and the two of us built this organization.
Yeah, be careful of the advice you give, right?
Yeah. So he came over, and we ended up building this insurance carrier together and be part of the founding team that got to have an opportunity to build something from scratch, which was
that's awesome.
Really unique opportunity in the early part of my career that just kind of serendipitously happened and got to become an opportunity for us to be very creative. A lot of, implementation of new technology that we got to really just experiment with.
And I think that's, that becomes the crux of this conversation today, because you've had quite a journey in the insurance industry from starting a carrier with, I believe, a successful exit.
Oh yeah.
You now have an agency, Triforta. You've been on the commercial side, you've been on the benefit side. Today you have, you do both at Triforta, but you just mentioned technology, and a guy who's a detail-oriented individual. I'm sure you are somebody that's always been on the leading edge of technology. I envision you being the guy in line to get the new Apple phone, right?
Usually, yeah, usually. Not immediately. I won't wait in lines. I'm not big on going to Disneyland and waiting in lines and crowds, but yeah, usually when it's...
You're going to be one of the first to have the new technology, right? But let's talk about this, because one of the things I think that's so cool about the journey that you've shared with me since I've known you is very rarely in our industry does somebody go on to create a solution to solve a problem they had. And we're here to talk about a technology you've built called Perionics. Yeah. And what led you? So you've been at, you went through the journey, exit, bought agencies, have run agencies. What led you to ultimately coming to the point where you are today with the Perionics, which is a technology that helps agents run an agency with more efficiency? What led you to the fact that I've got to build my own solution?
Yeah, it's a great question, Andy. Like you said, fast forward to, exiting and acquiring your first agency. I knew I wasn't ready to retire, obviously, so I still had a lot of fight left in me in my 50s. And I felt I had a lot to still give to the industry. So acquiring that first P&C firm, that was, when was that? That was about the end of 2018 when I acquired my first P&C firm. And didn't know anything about property casualty, I knew what an auto insurance policy was and a homeowner's policy and an umbrella, because I had those myself. When I was in the trades, we obviously dabbled in, shopping our insurance for general liability and workers' comp. So knew that a little bit, but not how to really promote or present it and, all the ins and outs of that for a client. But acquiring that first PNC agency, man, was that an eye-opening experience. Working with some of the best brokers in the country on the carrier side, I really knew employee benefits, and I knew what value adds to bring into our agency to provide resources to really help employers, and knew what I was going to do to grow the employee benefits side of the business. So buying that PNC agency, it didn't have any employee benefits in it. So I thought that was a great opportunity, and also an opportunity to learn another side of insurance. So really had some key people that stayed on with the agency, incentivized them, and learned a lot about change management in exiting that previous company that applied to our insurance agency. And so retaining people and keeping them motivated and incentivized. But getting into the system and seeing what the majority of agents were using to manage their business, the lack of having structured data, just really electronic file cabinets, the CRM functionality that I was used to, that we had built in a very tech-forward insurance carrier, was non-existent. Being able to just run general reports. If I want to do a mailing list and a mail merge to do, email campaign to our existing customers or leads or prospects, that was impossible to do at the time. So I knew I had to do something. I was like, this isn't going to work for me. I can't run an agency on this legacy technology. I can't believe people are still using it. So I'm like, really? So unfortunately for me, I had a lot of people that I've known that are good friends that own agencies, and they sold to some of the, private equity backed firms that are, very big today, and talked to them about what they were using. And, a lot of them had disparate systems and challenges. I was like, really? I said, so there's no alignment and coordination between the information you have and all the agencies that were acquired by these big firms, having visibility to, just business or retention or the accounting side and the financials. And they were working on putting all that together. I was like, yeah, that made me realize that building something before we scaled was probably a good path. And if we could build something before we scaled, then you wouldn't have the change management that would be required for all those agencies that you acquired and the people in those agencies to have to learn a new system. They would have it from the beginning. So building that was really something that we found was necessary. And what I on my search, there wasn't anything available. I searched, I looked, and see what was out there. And since I had been a part of building out Salesforce on the carrier side, started learning Salesforce back in 2006, how to program it, just a sales guy that wanted to work faster and get more done and have more opportunities that you can manage and execute on and close. The only way to do that was to manage the information more effectively. So Salesforce was something that I kept coming back to, but I was sweating about the cost. Yeah. I was like, it was going to be expensive. Salesforce is not cheap. But the fact that it was adopted by so many in the industry on the carriers and starting to lean into that, it made a lot of sense to develop on that. So that's what led us to do that. We started our journey building that out in late part of 2018. So it didn't take long to really.
So this is 6 years in the 6 years in process.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What? Let's dive in. Number one. So you have a technology today called Aperionics that helps agencies run. And I think people are going to love what they hear when we start getting into the weeds of what this thing can do. But I'm gonna ask the question I'm sure some people might be wondering right now. Aperionics. What does that mean? Where does that name come from? So when you built your technology, how did you come up with the name Aperionics, and what does that mean?
Yeah, that was something that we worked long and hard on. Since starting on the PNC side, I've acquired 2 other agencies too, and they were on different platforms as well. So, and all on different ones, and knew I wanted to merge them all together onto the platform. And then over time, as those customers that we acquired learned, and we built relationships with them, because the agencies that we acquired, these were agents that wanted to retire. And so retaining the business and keeping that, brand reputation and that name was really important, especially the first few years. And one of the things we learned is don't ever tell your customers that the previous agent retired. They're on a sabbatical or leave of absence. They hadn't had a vacation in a long time. And I learned that from some other people that did a lot of acquisitions on the agency side. So rebranding was important. So we went on this. It took about a year to really figure out what we want to do. And Triforta has a unique name to it, and we can get into that later. But Aperionics, that was a name that I wanted to find something that really captured the ethos of what our platform could do. And to me, that platform is never going to be done. It's always going to be evolving. It's always going to be continuously improving. I think my journey has been, one that's always been, seeking personal, development and expanding my knowledge and experience. And the better I can be, and for myself and my family, the more I can help others. And so I wanted a platform that also embodied that as well. And so Aperion is a Greek term that means, boundless, without fence or without borders, and really limitless. So that's a Greek terminology and we searched, let's find some terms in astrology, like Nova kind of means that as well, and some other terms that we found, but it just kept coming back to Aperion and just the origin of being in Greece. And it's a term that most people don't use. You don't see it anywhere. And then added the IX because it has a uniqueness to it that allowed us to.
And it sounds techie.
It's techie, and also it was unique enough to make it trademarkable.
Yeah.
So of course filing that and making sure we lock that in. So Aperionics.ai is our URL for our website, and that's within platform pages and details on our website.
So Aperionics, obviously, we're going to get into AI. A lot of it is built off of AI and how agencies can be using artificial intelligence to, let's call, speed up the mundane. Yeah. Right. How many activities do we see inside an agency every day that are being executed repeatedly, but they're being done at a very mundane manual process? Before we dive into the role AI plays in agency efficiency, let's just talk about, why don't you give us a high level overview of what Aperionics is? So knowing that our audience is commercial or benefit advisors, agency owners running those agencies, where could they be leveraging a technology like Aperionics to run their office more efficiently?
Yeah. So, I've always believed that, time is our most valuable resource, right? And so since we, are in the insurance industry, producers, and we find ourselves, bogged down with a lot of the mundane tasks, right? The mundane things that we're required to do every day. It seems like, you're taking information. Paper seems to be the most accurate form of information in our industry. Everybody's working on paper, whether it be accord forms or summary plan documents or something like that. And, you have to get all that information into a system. You have to get it in there. Somebody has to put it in there. And if you can find ways to get that information into a system more efficiently, I knew that would allow our teams to have more time, whether it's, putting an RFP together, whether it's, getting a proposal from all the carriers and you want to put together a summary to present to a client. There's data that has to move around and it has to be manipulated and presented, and somebody's spending a lot of time doing that. In the insurance industry, especially on the P&C side, it's become difficult to be profitable. Carriers have pressed down, commissions, single digits in most cases for new and renewals, and especially renewals in most cases. So unless you're speeding up the efficiency and eliminating some of those mundane tasks, it's hard to be profitable, or you're spending a lot of time and labor doing that. So we ended up building our platform, and I saw the legacy technology companies layering a CRM, whether it be HubSpot or Salesforce, on top of these legacy platforms. And I said, well, why don't we build it on Salesforce and embed the agency management system within Salesforce, which proved to be the right philosophy, because now I see Salesforce leaning into Agentforce, and they're coming out with a financial services cloud that they announced at Dreamforce. And so having been doing this for almost 6 years now, we're just ahead of the curve, because we had the realization that, and I had the experience using Salesforce so long ago that made that decision, and thankfully it turned out to be the right decision. But with the AI and the solutions that we've now been able to implement, really able to solve those biggest problems and eliminating those mundane tasks and the data entry and the extra keystrokes that no one's signing up for, no one wants to do, but you have to do, right? And you have to get those things entered into the system and then use that to then go enter it into carriers' websites to go get quotes. So you got more data entry to do. And if we can eliminate all those steps, which we were able to really accomplish successfully. We weren't planning on AI becoming part of our platform. AI just, really started taking and getting traction, it seems like pretty quickly, right? And most recently. But because we're in a position and we have a future-proof platform that was open and connectable and API enabled, I didn't have to wait for a legacy technology provider to build it for us. We were able to leverage it. We experimented with some use cases, a lot of trial and error, and a lot of training of some small language models that allowed us to solve these problems really effectively. So we're leaning into that, and it's pretty exciting stuff.
Let's talk about how AI, again, the unintended consequence of AI all of a sudden becoming a part of it, right? You made me think of like when we started Complete Game Consulting, I built it right at the time, not knowing 2020 would happen. Forcing everybody online, everybody virtual, everybody was on camera now. And our whole thing is helping people build brand awareness, especially online brand awareness. And it was an unintended consequence for us in a good way. All of a sudden, everybody's like, holy crap, we have to be online. We don't know what to do. And for you with a periodic, same thing. All of a sudden, you're building this. And all of a sudden, this thing called artificial intelligence takes off, which has now become a really key piece of what you have in the platform. Let's talk about how AI can really help make the mundane efficient. Because one thing I think I'm impressed by when I've seen your program, I've had experience working inside commercial agencies, selling commercial insurance, benefits, of course. And when you were telling me how you can literally, on the commercial side with Accord apps and certificates, and then for both benefits and commercial, getting quotes to put together and proposals, the speed at which you can do that through your platform. Talk about that, because those are the mundane activities that literally can bog down an agency, especially at a time like this. Q4. Talk about how Perionics is really speeding up that process.
So no, and this is where it really gets exciting, because we had no idea that this was going to be the outcome of what we were experimenting with this platform, and fortunately, without doing any recordings, just and not really promoting our brand yet, just quietly building for the last 6 years. The industry started hearing, about what we're doing. And there was a young AI engineer that reached out to me. We've become really good friends over the last 9 months really quickly. And he heard what we were doing and building our platform, and he asked how he could help. And I said, well, what do you mean how you can help? What do you think AI can do for us and for the insurance industry? And he said, well, this is what I do. I build these small language models that get very specific on training. And he's been a great programmer in programming and training AI for almost 10 years now. I mean, surprisingly, I had no idea that people were playing with this for that long. And I said, okay, I got some serious use cases that I got problems I want to solve that take a ridiculous amount of time. I got VAs in different countries that are doing all these tasks, and we've reduced the cost because in our platform, we're tracking the cost per transaction. Every service that we do is productized. So we have about 25 things that an account manager does on a daily basis. And so we can see, 50 to 100,000 tasks. And I know the cost of each of those transactions from the time they open the case to how long it takes to close that case, the amount of, the salary or hourly rate of pay that they have, what that net cost is. A certificate might be $35. Remarketing a renewal is $145 minimum. So
there's that precision to detail.
Yeah, right. So those are just a couple of things, and there's about 6 or 7 things that a salesperson does, continuously. All salespeople do these same steps. So we productized those, and then we created workflows and mapping of processes on how you do that in the system, so we can send that task to a service center, right? So I built, on the carrier side, we built a team of about 500 employees in Chennai, India. Had our own employees there. So I learned, hey, you can train people anywhere in the world. The world is really flat now, right? And it has been for a long time with technology. So the first long-winded answer, obviously, I have a tendency to do that. But the first task that we decided to solve, taking unstructured data, is really a big, simple process. If you think about any data that we have in our industry that you need access to, and it's unstructured, it's on a document somewhere, it's on an accord form, it's on a supplemental form, it's on a commission statement, it's on a policy document. You can build a template and train AI to find the information you need. And once you build that template, any other document that has that same information can be pulled without having to retrain the model or create a new template for every different format. So when you parse a PDF document, it only parses, like your programming only parses that document in that format. If that document changes, you have to reparse and create another form. And there's companies that have made a living doing that, but they're kind of going to be out of business if they don't adapt to using AI for those solutions. So AI is a much more stable, less brittle process for being able to take unstructured data and put it into utilizing formats. So the very first one that we played with was commission statements. Like, we do commercial insurance, and we thankfully have access to Ivans where we can download, commissions and policy changes and so forth into our system. But one of the agencies we acquired is construction. So mostly, artisan contractors, guys that, I connected with when I started my career. So it kind of came full circle, which I thought was kind of unique. So I had to buy that agency that was all contractors. And a lot of E&S markets. The E&S market is growing considerably because of the hardening of the market in insurance and more difficulty, finding carriers and coverage, especially in the property space. But, unique to artisan contractors, they're climbing and they're digging and, they're doing residential, which has a long, potential for risk or, home warranty claims and things like that. But the commission statements were all manually downloaded and manually entered into our accounting system. And I'm paying a VA on our team, almost 100 hours a month to manually enter line items of commission statements to track the revenue per policy in our system. I'm like, could I get rid of all that effort in some way? And my engineer, my friend now, he's like, yeah, I think we can do that. So let's train it on how to read those commission statements and put it into a format that can be ingested into the platform and eliminate all that data entry. And that took a while to train it. It really did, because there's so many different types of commission statements. You got commercial, which is, everything's based on a policy number. Then you have employee benefits, everything's based on a group number. And then you have life insurance, which, that with all the debits and credits and being able to really see those and read that, some of those took a lot longer to train. But we got through it, and it made it was a tremendous project and a really great learning curve to give me the understanding of now, where are all the other problems that we have unstructured data that can be, you can eliminate the need for someone to have to read that document, re-enter that information, and just save tremendous amounts of time.
Scaling a business, I see a lot of agency owners. I'm going to say something, and I know I'm going to get pushback because you could argue I don't have the right to say this because I've never owned an agency technically. But what I see is a lot of agents. There's a lot of agency owners out there that have built an agency because they're good at selling insurance. Doesn't necessarily mean they're good at running a business. And to scale a business these days, it doesn't necessarily mean you just have to throw a bunch of people at it. And you see a lot of agencies do that. They start, they scale, and what do? They hire. What you're saying is with our tool, with the Perionics, you can start scaling without having to hire a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And like I said, what I was impressed with is the ability commission statements. I think a Perionics can even do policy audits.
Oh yeah, no, there's
certificates,
a lot of things we could do.
Cord apps, right? I mean, the speed at with which this stuff can work not only is going to help you do it faster, it's not going to require as many people. So one thing you say I'd love for you to dive into is I hear you repeat often, this tool allows advisors to work at the top of their license.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, no, that's very true. I could unpack so many things in that question that you just asked. One of the things I think is the biggest problem in our industry, and I realize, in employee benefit space, the challenge with the fully insured carriers is the fact that, premium is revenue to them, right? And no one in a company thinks about how can I lower my revenue and help the employers, get more competitive insurance rates, right? Or bring their costs down. And I started applying that same realization to the legacy tech companies that sell seat licenses to their platforms. And the more seat licenses they sell, the more revenue or profit they make. So do they really have incentive to develop solutions and products that eliminate the mundane tasks that don't require an agency to have as many people? And it's going to be difficult to have as many people because and other people in this industry, they say in the next 5 to 10 years, half of this industry is going to be retiring. So you better be able to be more efficient and work with a platform that is enabled or future-proof to help your people eliminate those mundane tasks so they can work more efficiently. And also they're going to have more fun in this industry because what young people are going to want to come into this industry that want to work with a legacy platform that has terrible, UI, and they're going to wonder, why do I have to do all this mundane stuff and re-enter it here and enter it over there? They're not going to be too excited about joining the insurance industry and working for a firm that has to have that kind of work. So that to me was realization, and some of the solutions that we ended up, really allowing our staff to work at the top of their license. What I mean by that is, do what you are really empowered to do, where you have the subject matter expertise. Help an employer identify cost containment solutions in their health plan where they can reduce their costs, transition from a fully insured to a self-funded or partially self-funded plan using some of the strategic captive solutions that are out there in the marketplace. And if you have to spend your time as an agent or account manager doing all this extra work, you're not going to have the time to press the flesh or be face-to-face with your customer to learn their business and learn how you can help them more strategically, because every client obviously is different. They have unique solutions. Their industry is different. Their people are different. And the solutions vary. But if you don't have the time to invest in spending time to figure that out, and then also some of these unique strategies, they require more effort or more work to implement because there's a lot of time and effort and energy spent on, analyzing the data and getting information that you can use to ask the right questions to solve the right problems more effectively. And in most instances, at most agencies, that puts a lot of extra work on those HR departments and those benefits administration teams or those risk managers that the smaller employers, 50 plus, 75 plus, that would like to take advantage of what a Fortune 100 company can do in this, in the industry, are reluctant to do that because they feel like they got a whole bunch of extra work and their agent or their firm can't take away that burden for them. They just, the economics of that won't make, that agency won't be profitable if they try to do those things. So this platform allows us to accomplish all that. And what I feel kind of holistically bring the whole solution together in a more effective way, risk management, cost containment, but do it with a proprietary future-proof platform that is leveraging the most effective AI to bring those solutions to employers without them having to do any extra work.
Well, and that's what excites me. What I hear when I hear working at the top of your license, I was at listened to a speaker last week talking about AI. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I wrote down is in his keynote, which really is what we're talking about here, is he said the thing that AI does more than anything is it automates the mundane so you can focus on the meaningful. And that's what you're talking about right there. How many agencies have people in their agency who are doing work that's so far below their, what Dan Sullivan and Strategic Coach calls your unique ability, your gift, your zone of genius, because this is the way we've always done it. Where no, AI allows you to automate all that stuff so that individual can focus on what they're best at doing. And if you had a team full of people focusing on what they do best, your ability to scale just went 10x.
Yeah.
And your ability to do it faster just went 10x. And I think that's what I see a Perionics really doing for agencies. I think of that up and coming independent agency that is thinking about where we go. We just hit $1 million, $5 million. How do we get to 10? Again, historically, it's been, well, just go find more people, hire more producers. You don't need to do that anymore because AI is going to automate that at such a faster pace that it's not about adding people. It's about automating the work they shouldn't be doing so they can take on more of what they should be doing. So here's my question, because you used the word future-proof. How do you see artificial intelligence impacting the insurance industry in the next 5 years? Because here's where I want to go with this, Rodney. Just like we face the battle at Complete Game Consulting, we have a lot of agency owners who still act as if social media doesn't exist. And I'm here to tell them it's 2024. It ain't going anywhere. It's only going to get bigger. If you're not using it, you're missing out. I think artificial intelligence the same way. I guarantee there's a lot of agencies out there who aren't leveraging yet. And newsflash, it's not a fad. It's not going away.
Yeah, no, it's true.
How do you see artificial intelligence impacting our industry in the next 5 years?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely moving from a nice to have to a must have. There are people that believe that it's a fad. There are those that are using it in the customer service space, which is great. There's a lot of use cases and a lot of POCs being done out there in the industry, proof of concept, and things that people are experimenting with to be able to determine if it can be helpful. I'm here to say that this is not just something that is short lived. This is going to be the wave of the future, right? So one of the things that we think over the next 5 years is we're going to see, AI driving more personalized, predictive services, right? For insurance professionals, they're going to use it to analyze vast amounts of data in real time, allowing for much more accurate assessments and tailoring coverage and services for their clients. Also enhancing the customer service experience, right? So being able to deliver solutions to their clients, make their clients' experiences more predictable, and take the burden off of their clients, so they aren't having to do extra work for the advanced insurance solutions and techniques that are starting to be really implemented in the marketplace, bringing those solutions from the Fortune 100 company levels, those big whale type clients that can get really creative in all the solutions that they have because they have the teams and the manpower or the staff to be able to afford to, and the economics of that and what they save. But to be able to bring that down to an employer of 50 or more employees, unless you have the ways to be able to eliminate the extra effort and the extra work for them, it's just not going to be possible. And for us, waiting for the legacy technology companies to build a product that these features become available to us to integrate and offer to our clients, that to me, that was the status quo. And we couldn't sit around waiting for someone else to create something that we knew we needed to be able to grow our business. So, we're going to see that helping with compliance, regulatory requirements. That's always changing and evolving, and adherence to monitoring and all the reporting tasks. So the role of insurance professionals, it's going to shift towards more of a strategic advisory role, right? So where they're not spending the time and effort and energy on having to do those things that we're preventing them from working at the top of their license. And so make making insurance fun again. I mean, that's and profitable again.
What a timely way to say that response, that answer, right?
Yeah. We could probably come up with an acronym for that.
Make make insurance great again, MIGA.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say it, because I hear a lot of advisors talk about, I get paid for results, not activity.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're really talking about here. You said the role of the advisor in the future is going to really be a strategic advisor. And I think there are a lot of agencies out there that are making their money off the fact they're really good at activity, day-to-day activity, doing that stuff for a client, right? But is it really generating results? Probably not, because they're not able to spend enough time in the strategic role to actually help drive results. And what you're saying is, with Aperionics, AI is basically going to take all the day-to-day stuff away that you spend way too much time on, so you can focus on the strategic side of your business, which is really going to drive results for the end user. What advice would you give, with that being said, your peers, agency owners out there looking to scale their business in the next few years? What advice would you give them on how to leverage AI to do that? You've built your own solution to solve your own problem.
Yeah.
What advice would you give peers who are in that boat right now, struggling to grow, maybe feeling like they're capped, doing too much of the doing?
Yeah.
How should they be leveraging AI to scale their business easier?
Yeah. Well, first, you have a very difficult decision to make, because in order to leverage AI, you have to have a platform that enables you to actually integrate AI into your systems. So is that going to happen with some of the legacy tech providers out there in the industry? Maybe. When is another question. So a lot of big ifs and big questions related to that. So, for us, we just happen to make the decision at the right place at the right time, because of my background on, being at a very tech-enabled insurance carrier, had a different perspective than being, in the industry and only working on the agency side of the business. Just felt it was the right thing to do almost 6 years ago. Now the race is on. So if you're not enabling and starting to think about integrating these things into your platform, you're going to fall further and further behind. It's not going to replace, what you do. It's never going to replace the human element, that relationship building, part of our business. That's a very important aspect of what we do every single day. But it's going to amplify those capabilities for yourself, your staff, make your business more profitable, increase the capabilities of your team and the efficiency, basically being able to do more with less staff, because it's going to become harder to find staff or to replace the staff that you have that are your subject matter experts that are going to go retire. They want to go play golf or go on a cruise or travel. They're not going to want to sit behind a desk, much longer. So they're going to be retiring. So it's a crucial that we free up your team to focus on those higher value activities. And you're going to have to start thinking about, transitioning at some point. And for some agencies, they're pretty big, right? And so, changing, you acquired 100 agencies, 500 agencies, and all these people on, maybe you're migrating to one unified platform, but that platform may not have the capabilities to integrate with AI. So you may have to use some middleware. There's ways around it. There's things like MuleSoft and others that you can use to connect your system to, and if your system, finally has APIs available, you're going to be able to do that. But it's crucial to invest, also starting small, start small, figure out an area where you want to eliminate mundane tasks and just test and create some solutions. We happen to have some resources that we've built that we can make available to other agents that they could subscribe to. Our small language model that's trained on policy comparisons. One of the things I see is I do see some agencies in the tech space, some in San Francisco and other key markets, that have their own AI engineering teams, and they're promoting on social media and LinkedIn that, hey, we can do this policy comparison, and we can put in your client's coverage requirements, and we can see if this policy actually includes those or not. And AI is doing all of that in a matter of 30 seconds, reading a 200-page document. but they're keeping it to themselves. We built the same thing, but we're democratizing technology.
Yep.
So any agency could get access to these solutions. They can just go on our website, ask for a demo, and we can give them a subscription to that. Now they're going to have their developers, integrate that into their platform. But if that's not necessary, they could still use it separately and then take advantage of the solutions. There's other language models that we've created that will convert that data and get it into your system. So if you have APIs, you can get the data converted and get it into your system. We have an AI solution that's trained on how to go to carriers' websites and navigate taking the information and populating all the screens to bring back quotes. So we've created like 7 solutions. I mean, we are working fast to create these solutions. So that's what's exciting is, I just went to ITC in October.
Which is the insurance technology conference, InsurTech conference?
Okay. I think it's the biggest in the world. First time I ever attended it. I always wanted to go, but was looking for a real good reason to go. And I had an opportunity to be a speaker and working with a team that's on the advisory board for ITC. And we did, a live recorded podcast in the expo in the broker town square. And I brought our AI engineer and we, showcased some of these solutions. And I was told there at that conference by people that attended our presentation, it was the best thing that they had seen at ITC. So wow. I realized need to tell our story.
Yes.
Right? We need to tell our story. And that's one thing that I a little reluctant to do or try to kind of figure out exactly how to do. And we ended up building a recording studio, not as nice as this one, but building a recording studio in our office in a little town, Loomis, California. And we started, putting out content, and that's starting to get edited and get published, and people will start to see what we're doing. And creating awareness, I've always believed that you have to figure out a way to take your inside reality and make it the outside perception. And I think we're finally figuring out how to do that and branding and communicating this information through video and presenting that.
Well, and I think where this is all going to go, I look at the industry right now, and the biggest downside for some agencies today is they're losing really good talent. And it's because that talented advisor, account exec, whoever that is doing work they weren't hired to do. They're doing work that is so far below either their pay grade or their zone of genius. Mm-hmm. It's frustrating. And then they ultimately end up leaving to go find something else. And what I caution agencies on is be careful of being too proud of the past. Yeah. Being proud of, well, this is how we got here. And their version of what is hands-on customer service sometimes is just you're doing way too much stuff you shouldn't be doing manually right now. You think it's the right thing to do. It's going above and beyond, but it's also what's keeping your agency from growing. And I think what we've learned here in our time together is with Aperionics and artificial intelligence, that's what's going to let these agencies scale faster without having to hire all these people. Yeah. And it's going to let their best talent work in their unique ability, their zone of genius, which becomes a retention tool. We haven't even talked about how AI could help sales and marketing and all that stuff. I think there's a day and age where AI, and it's already here, AI is going to act as your prospector. It's going to engage with prospects and generate leads. But what you've built is this platform for agency owners to scale without having to require a bunch of people.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. You remind me of, the way things are always done, and we've always done it this way. And someone who I met in the industry who also was, working on building something themselves on Salesforce. He and I partnered together about 6 years ago, and he ended up selling his agency to a big firm. And he tried to explain to this big firm, who's probably acquired, they're probably at 750, 800 million in valuation right now. And he tried to explain to them as, hey, we could do things differently. We can put a different platform together. And they're like, sorry, we can't hear you over the jet engine noise or all the checks we're cashing. So you just kind of go over there and play with your toys. We're going to keep doing, things that we're doing. And I was really happy to hear that because, I think we're going to be able to scale a lot more profitably and a lot faster because we started with a foundation of a platform that is future-proof and is able to leverage these solutions and eliminate these mundane tasks. And we're just getting started.
Yep.
But I feel like we're a little bit ahead of the curve. So that's exciting, but also to see where we can go with this and how much further we can take it. And maybe it's in marketing and prospecting and, engaging clients. I think, haven't figured out how we do that yet because, we're learning how to create content and create value and provide awareness on our strategic solutions when it comes to, the cost containment and the risk management that are really important to bring those things to the mid-market, and educating on that. And a lot of things we're talking about, we're sharing really, specific details of the strategies that we apply to help employers that help us win business. And if that gets in the hands of my competition, it's okay. I don't care. I used to care about that, but I don't care anymore. It's like there's enough business to go around. So to us, that feels like the right way to attract and win new business because you're attracting the type of customers that you want to you, and they're reaching out to you. They're passively looking at our content. That content, becomes content as it starts to perpetuate. And they find value in that, and then they start reaching out to us. So, I don't like pounding the phones. I know some of the agents in agencies that friends of mine that sold their business to a big publicly traded company, great share value, but they hire 50 agents a year, and 15 make it, but all they do is pound the phones. They're not allowing them to become their own brand and create awareness out there in the marketplace, and so. If AI gets involved in that, I'm not sure, but we might be able to figure it out together.
Yeah, well, for the time being, it's helping agencies keep their best clients, which is with the money you're already making is where your priority should start. So, if I'm an agency owner listening in right now and my agency's right at that point where I know I want to take it to the next level and I'm weighing between, do I need to hire more people? Where can I look for tools to scale? I think this is one they just found. If you're listening in right now and you want to know how you're going to scale your business, Aperionics is a tool that you're going to want to check out. So Rodney, if somebody is listening in and they're going, all right, I need to know more about this as I look to 2025 and how I'm going to grow my agency, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah. We have on our website, aperionics.ai, we have sections and cloud pages there where people can enter their information. There's a section if you're thinking that maybe our agency is someone you want to partner with or learn from. There's a partnership opportunity there, and there's also request a demo. We're happy to share exactly what we're doing, even provide you direction on if you want to build it yourself. I can share with you the lessons that we've learned and give you some direction on what to look out for, maybe how to get started. Aperionics.ai, best place to go. And you can just put in a request. Those come right to me. I respond to all of them. And just absolutely love this business, love where we're going. I've never been more excited and more passionate about what we're doing to solve some big problems. Again, make this industry fun again, make this insurance profitable again. And I just think we're on the right track with that. And the future is very bright when it comes to the possibilities. Of
you said at dinner last night, rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Yeah.
And if you're wondering how in the world to spell Aperionics, we'll put it in the show notes. You don't have to worry about it. Rodney, this has been awesome. Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I think you're onto something big here, and I'm excited for the market to see it because we work with enough agencies right now that could use a little more efficiency with scale, and I think what you've built is going to help them take a long way. Take a long way towards that. So
that's why we're doing it, helping employers and at the same time other agencies or teams that want to take advantage of these things. I mean, to be able to get a shortcut to technology, you can either invest in it yourselves or you could take a shortcut and be a part of our revolution. So,
Rodney Mattos, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening in. Be good.
Yeah. Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching this episode. As you can see, we've built Aperionics to solve the problems we've all experienced firsthand. Slow workflows, data bottlenecks, and legacy systems that hold people back. What you've just heard isn't theory. It's execution. and it's already helping agencies and employers unlock better results, reduce waste, and put more money back into employees' paychecks, all without adding to the workload of already stretched HR teams. So if you're ready to stop talking about innovation and start experiencing it, visit Triforta and reach out to us, and we'll show you how. We're going to show you how intelligent insurance operations really looks. And while you're at it, subscribe to this podcast, follow Triforta on LinkedIn and on YouTube, and share this episode with someone who still thinks insurance can't be fixed, because we know it can. We are Triforta, and we empower agencies, we fix insurance, and we're just getting started. Thank you.